Welcome to Final Cut Pro, and today I'm going to show you how to use EQ, the compressor, and the limiter in the effects audio panel to improve your voice. Now, if you don't know where the effects panel is, so we're just going to go ahead and close this right here. This is your transitions and this is your effects. If you just click on that, it should pop up, and then notice we have video, and if you scroll down, you're going to start to see now we have our audio. The first thing we need to look at is take a look at my original audio. And what I've done here, and as we play this here in just a second, I am talking normal, and then I'm going to get really loud, and then I'm going to get really soft, and then I'm going to finish talking. One of the issues when someone is talking in audio, they talk louder and then they mumble and they get quiet. One of the things we want to control is to try to make this more even throughout the file. We're also going to improve the sound quality by going into the EQ, and we're going to stop it from clipping. So clipping is when your audio gets too loud. And if I come over here, and let me click on an audio file. I'm going to raise this up really high. So you can see right here where it's starting to get yellow and red. That means that that file is clipping. It's getting too loud. So we're going to use the limiter to tell that, hey, don't get past that mark so it clips. So hold on, and I'm going to show you how to control. Hold on, I'm going to show you how to control audio inside of Final Cut Pro. So what I did is I recorded my voice right here. Now I'm using a Shure microphone into a complete audio interface, and then that's going into my computer. So what I'm going to do here is I've got just the original audio file, and it's just this file right here. And I'm just going to play this and let it go through once so you can hear the bass audio without any adjustments at all. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. All right, so that was the bass audio without any adjustments at all. So we're going to keep this here, and I've got a secondary file here. Now the first thing that I'm going to apply here is a filter that actually isn't in Final Cut Pro. And as you can see right here, it's under waves. And so it's called deep breath. As I breathe in, what happens is you can hear that on my audio files. And for me to have to go in and cut every single one of those out is a lot of work. So what I've done is I've gotten this, I think it was like 20 bucks, and I downloaded it, and just the time and money it's saving me. So what I'm going to do is just drag this over here, and that is applying the deep breath. So as I inhale, it does its best to remove it. It doesn't get every single thing all the time. It gets like 99%. That is deep breath. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to change this to clip. I'm going to call this breath. And then I'm going to select this. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to come out here and I'm going to paste that file. So I can come to the start here, and we're going to go ahead and play that deep breath. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. So that's with the deep breath. And if you don't really hear much, that's okay. It's just removing that inhale when I'm working on an audio file. So we're going to go ahead and rename this clip. And we are going to call this Compressor. Now, if we go to all, and then we go down to levels, we're going to find the compressor. We're going to drag the compressor over here. Now, my first issue is this is automatically doing something after, as soon as I drop this compressor on. And we're going to come in here. We're going to open up the compressor window, and I'm just going to move this up because I want you to be able to see for right here. The first thing that we have here is what's called input gain. So basically this is making all of this audio louder, so we're increasing the gain. If we remember, my original input is very soft, so I need to increase my gain. Now it has increased it a little bit. It automatically is doing that when you load it in. Now, if I want to add some more to that, all I need to do is come out here and click. Now you'll see right here, this is starting to get red and yellow. This means that this file is now clipping. It's getting too loud. If we look over here, we've got some files. So we have 0 right here. You don't want your audio levels to go above 0. If they go above 0, they're going to go ahead and clip. Now we did this on purpose. This is that really loud area that is clipping. And so one of the things that we want to show you here is how to fix that. While everything looks good, nothing's getting clipped until it gets right to here. So when you're doing your files, you don't want to make them really loud so a whole bunch of stuff starts clipping. You just want to raise it till it gets up close to about where it should be. In this case, we're going to come in here and change this audio. So I've added plus 4 dB to this file. Now we can always come back in here and change this. The next thing that we're going to take a look at is threshold. Threshold means how loud does a signal have to be before compression starts? So this is a compressor. How loud does a signal need to get before the compressor starts to work? So in this case, we're going to do -6. So this is about where we want our range of our files. So we're going to say once those loud signals start to get above -6, we want the compressor to start working. If we come in here, notice this is at -20. So -20 would mean that the compressor is going to start to work way down here. We don't want it to be that sensitive. So we're going to come in here and we're going to change this to -6 dB on our threshold. The next thing that we have here is ratio. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually bring this back up to 100% just so it's a little bit easier to see. So ratio is how much compression is applied. For example, if you have a 4:1 compression ratio, so if I take this and what we're going to do is we're going to set our ratio, we're just going to do it right now to 3:1. So what this means is we've set our threshold at 6. So as soon as it gets to -3, it's going to reduce the signal by -1. So anything that gets louder, -3, so once it starts to get above -3, it's going to reduce that signal by 1. 4:1 is it would have to go above 4, and then it's going to reduce it by 1. What we're going to do for voice, usually it's between 2 and 3 that I like. So we'll go ahead and put that right in between, and that's going to be pretty good for now. The next thing that we're going to take a look at is knee. So knee is how long the compressor reacts to the signals once the threshold is passed. How long does it react for? There's what's called hard knee, in which it's really quick. And then there's soft knee, in which it's very gradual. So we're going to switch over to the graph. This is going to be easy to explain this. So right now we're at 1. And you can see that that curve is very soft. If I come over here to 0, notice that that is hard. So this is a hard knee. In this case, we want it usually somewhere between 1 and -8. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 here. And so this is going to give us a soft knee. When the signal starts to get compressed, we want it to like gradually come in and gradually go out. It does it too quick. It just doesn't sound natural or realistic. The next thing that we have here is attack. So attack is how long it takes for the compressor to start working. Once it crosses that threshold, how long does it take to start working? So in this case, between not 0, but basically between 1 and 5 milliseconds, we're going to come in here and we'll just do it close to 5. Now we can always go back in and change it once again. The next thing that we have here is release. Release means how long after the compression starts working and the signal drops below the -3 does the compressor stop working. So release is kind of like ending what the compressor is doing. Basically, it's going to start and then it's going to stop. What this is doing is how fast does it release that compressor signal. And in this case, it's usually going to be somewhere between 10 to 20 milliseconds. So we're going to come in here and do it kind of right in between. I think I want about 12 or so like that. We've got 13. That should be pretty good for now. The last button we have here is makeup gain. And makeup gain allows you to boost the compressed signal. So as the compressor is working, sometimes you need to actually boost the signal because it's too low. By adjusting this, we're able to control how much the signal gets boosted. So we have an auto gain. We can turn this on to 0, and then so it will set the auto gain to 0 dB. We can set it to -12, or we can turn this off and manually set this. So I can come in here and say 5 dB. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to do it pretty low. We're going to set this for about 1.5 dB to make up. The next thing that we have here is a limiter. The limiter is limiting how high the audio signal can go. If you remember down here, this one area right here got above 0. The limiter is saying, hey, we don't want to allow it to go past a certain range. What is that? If we turn the limiter on, we can come in here and set the threshold for that. So right now it's at 0, which is fine. I'm going to do it just a little bit. I'm going to actually do mine at 1 dB. So I'm saying, hey, I want the loudest part to not get past -1. Now we could do a half. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to do -1, test that out, and to see how that goes. The last thing we have here is an output gain. So if we want to take the output and make that louder, we can definitely change it right here. But we're going to go ahead and leave that and let it go. Now that we've come in here and we've changed all of this information, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Now, if you want to save this, you can always come in here and do a save preset. You can name that preset. And once you are done, you can always come back and then use that saved preset. But we're just going to go ahead and close out for right now. Right here is our original file. And so if I was to play this through, you would hear this. Now, the first thing that I actually want to do to this file before I play it is if we come over here, notice in our dialog box, this is set to stereo. This is a mono mic, meaning that audio is only coming in one channel. It's not stereo. If you want to change this to make the sound come in to both channels, the left and the right, what you need to do is switch this over to dual mono. So now if we come in here and play this through, what you'll hear is that now the audio signal is coming both from the left and the right versus mono when it was just coming out the left channel. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the first signal here is the deep breath where there's been no compressor. And then we're going to listen to the compressor. It looks like this is a little bit low, but that's okay. We can come in there and adjust that and make it louder. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. So if you listen to this, you notice the whole entire gain has gone up a little bit, but right here where it got really loud, it's not clipping anymore. We've brought this back down to a reasonable level. Now, if we want to come back in here and change this, I can easily click on this and I can scroll down, go back over to the compressor, click on this file. I'm going to make this back at 75% here so we can kind of see what's going on here. Now I can change, once this is working, I can say, hey, I want to change my output level a little bit. And as I make this louder and louder, we can see that the audio file is getting louder and louder there as well. Now that's obviously too high. We don't want any area to clip. So we're going to go ahead and just bring this down right to about there. And that's going to give us a better signal. I've brought that up 3.5 decibels. It's going to make the whole entire clip just a little bit louder. So we can come on here and just listen to this again to see what that sounds like. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and I'm going to paste it once again. We're going to go ahead and say goodbye to the compressor. The reason I'm renaming these files is it makes it easier when I have to go back in and actually edit this video to make it work. And it's good for you because it shows you exactly what I'm doing. So we're just going to call this EQ and hit return. And now if I click on this and I scroll up here, notice we've got the channel EQ. And we'll go ahead and click on that and bring up the EQ. I can make this bigger. We'll set it right here so we can see what's going on. Now, just like in the compressor, we do have some defaults. So you can come in here and you can try these different defaults. If any of those work for you, that's great. So if you were to come in here, I'm a male, I can do male 1, and you can see it's giving us some adjustments in the EQ. In this case, we're going to go up and take a look at default. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually click on Analyzer. We're going to go ahead and select this here. I'm going to put it back at the beginning. I'm going to select this clip. Now, I have set that if I hit /, this is going to go ahead and loop this file. So what I'm going to do under the analyzer is I've played this a little bit so we can get this graph up. This graph is showing the wavelength of this audio file and my voice. Now, this is going to be different from everyone. Some people are going to have high voices, and what you're going to hear more down here. Some people are going to have low voices, which you're going to hear down here. So this is going to allow you to adjust the highs and the lows of your voice. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play through here, and I'm going to talk. So as we do this, I'm going to go ahead and hit /. You can see it's analyzing my voice, and I can see where the different wavelengths are. And this kind of gives me an idea of where I need to adjust the signal to make it sound better. So if I want to get rid of some of the highs, I'm going to lower this area. If I want to make the lows a little bit more deeper so my voice sounds fuller, I can increase this area. Up here, we have some little buttons up here. So what this does is a cut. This is a cut filter. So if I hit this, it's going to actually cut down here and let this signal pass through. Once again, this is a cut over here. So let's turn off the analyzer. We'll hit this cut filter, and you can see, bam, it's dropping that. So it's removing that area. And if I come in here, it's going to remove this area. On an audio file, you don't want really highs, and you're not going to be able to hear anything below 50 decibels hardly anyways. Basically, we're just working in here, so we can either use these or not use these. It's really up to us. So we're going to go ahead and turn these off. These little things right here, this is turning this one off, turning it on, turning that off, turning it on. So notice we have a little green that corresponds with green. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and select this once again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looping this signal. Basically, what's going to be happening is I'm going to be playing this, but I'm going to be adjusting it. Because the audio signal is coming into my headphones, you, the viewer, is not going to be able to hear what I'm doing. Once I've done something, so once I've got this all adjusted, I'm going to have kind of a before and after the EQ. And then I'll go ahead and play that. And then you can see how this adjusted it. Adjustment is going to be different for everybody's voice. There's not going to be one adjustment that's going to be perfect for everybody. However, what you need to know is here going up is making your lows higher or stronger, and this is bringing your highs louder, softer. So what I'm doing is controlling the areas of my voice until I get my voice how I want it to sound. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that /, and you're going to start seeing me now adjust these different areas. All right, so I've got this set. It's maybe not perfect, but we can always come back in and change that once again. So I'm going to hit Command- down here just to reduce this a little bit. We're going to come back over to where the compressor started. So I'm going to go ahead and play this audio. And so this is going to be with the compressor, and then it's going to be with the EQ. So you're going to be able to hear how my voice sounded before the EQ and after the EQ. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. So now that you can hear, after we applied this EQ, I have a much fuller and deeper sounding voice. So we've increased area of the signal and then kind of drop these highs just a little bit so it's not so piercing of a sound. So that's pretty good for EQ. We're going to go ahead and pull out of that. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is copy this, paste this, come in here and rename this to limiter. And I'm going to go ahead and hit return. Normally when I'm doing a limiter, when you saw this originally, I did it in the compressor. So if we come in here to compressor, notice we turn the limiter on there. I'm going to actually turn this off. I don't actually use the limiter in the compressor. So we want to come in here and get our limiter filter. Now another way to do this, and you can see I just set it up, is to type limiter. And as long as I'm in everything and I spell it right, limiter is going to come up. We have two. We have a Final Cut Pro and a Logic one. We'll just use the Logic one, but they're both exactly the same. They work the same. And we will scroll down and bring up our limiter filter. And let me just drag this up here so you can see this file. Now, this is new. The new version has this precision mode on. I'm going to switch this to legacy because I like the legacy version on. You want soft knee to be on. So if you remember and looking before when we were talking about this, soft knee is going to make a gradual transition and it's going to look a whole lot better. Our output level is how loud we want the end product to be. So what is the max volume we want this to be? So we're going to control this. So in this case, I'm going to set my max volume to about 2 dB, I think. So we'll do 2 dB for this right now. The next thing that we have here is our release. So like how fast do we want this to stop working? So in this case, we want it to be sort of slow. So we're going to reach this up to about 300 milliseconds, as close as I can get it. So 310 is pretty good. It seems a nice slow release, and that looks pretty good. Look ahead, we're going to go ahead and just leave that at 2 milliseconds. And now the next thing that we have here in the last thing, and the one that you're going to have to adjust most of the time, which is your gain. The gain is going to make those softer areas or those areas of audio louder. So I'm going to come down here and play this. This is without any gain. What I want you to look at is the audio levels here. Now what we're looking for is to increase the gain until the reduction is bouncing between kind of this 1.5 to 3 in this area right here. Once we see the reduction bouncing in that area, we know we've got just about the right amount of gain. So I'm going to go ahead and we will go ahead and just boost this up to 3 decibels of gain. And we will come in here and play this. So I'm going to have to change this to 3 dB, and then we'll come in here and play that. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. You can see here, we don't have the gain up high enough. Don't see any bouncing around in here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to now raise this new file to +20. You can see everything's clipping there. It's very loud. So we'll come back here. We'll come back here and we're going to play this and you're going to see this go crazy. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. So you could see that the input volume was clipping and this is way too much. So since this is too loud here, what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. We're going to copy this clip again. We're going to come in here. We're going to paste this clip again. I'm going to come in here. So I'm going to rename this clip here. I'm going to do 12 because I think 12 is going to be pretty good. So we're going to select this. And now we're going to change this gain to 12. And I think it's getting a little too loud. So I'm actually going to change my output level to -3 instead of -2. And now we'll go ahead and play this and see what this new file sounds and looks like. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. So you can see that limiter has stopped this from clipping, and it's also increased this amount right here, so it's not as soft as it was before. So we have a much more even sounding file. And so what we're going to hear here is we're going to hear the original, and then with all of our adjustments, what it sounds like now. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. Compression is the process of lessening the dynamic range between the loudest and the softest of an audio signal. Well, hopefully that is helpful. You learned a little bit about audio in Final Cut Pro. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.